They pushed a cowboy rancher to wed the old maid. Her next move stunned the entire county. In the dry hills of Cedar Ridge County, everyone knew everyone and everyone judged just as fast. Whispers traveled quicker than horses, and reputations, once stained, rarely healed. That was why when Caleb Hart, one of the county's most respected cowboy ranchers, announced his sudden marriage, the news didn't bring joy. It brought shock. Not because he had married, but because of who he had married. Her name was Margaret Maggie Doyle, and the county had labeled her long ago. At 38, unmarried, quiet, and living alone in a small inherited house at the edge of town, she was cruelly called the Old Maid. People said she was plain, too serious, too proud. Others claimed no man wanted a woman who spoke her mind and kept her head high. No one bothered to ask Maggie who she was. Caleb Hart never planned to marry her. In truth, he never planned to marry at all. Not after losing his parents young and raising his ranch alone. But when the county council threatened to seize part of his land over a disputed inheritance unless he produced a legal heir, pressure closed in from all sides. Just marry, they said. Anyone will do, they joked. Why not Maggie, someone laughed. It was meant as cruelty. But Caleb, tired of games and corruption, did the unthinkable. He asked Maggie. When he showed up at her door one evening, hat in hand, she thought it was a mistake. I'm not here out of pity, Caleb said honestly. And I won't lie to you. This marriage would protect my land. In return, you'd have a home. Respect. My name. Maggie looked at him for a long moment, eyes steady, unreadable. And what would you get, she asked. Caleb hesitated. Peace. She nodded slowly. Then I accept. But not as charity. As a partner. The courthouse wedding was small. Silent. Filled with sideways glances and smirks. People whispered that Caleb had ruined himself. That Maggie had trapped him. That the marriage wouldn't last a season. They were wrong. Maggie arrived at the ranch not as a timid bride, but as a woman with quiet purpose. She rose before dawn, learned the rhythms of ranch life, and listened more than she spoke. She noticed things others ignored, the waste in supplies, the tired hands of workers, the neglected accounts. Within weeks, she began making changes. She reorganized the books, uncovering years of unfair dealings by middlemen who had been cheating the ranch. She negotiated directly with buyers, cutting out corruption. Profits rose. Workers were paid fairly, and for the first time, on time. Caleb watched in silence, stunned. You've done this before, he finally said one night. Maggie smiled faintly. I ran my father's farm after he died. Men didn't like taking orders from a woman. So I learned to be better than them. Word spread. Then came the drought. While neighboring ranches withered, Maggie proposed a risky but bold plan, digging a deeper well in a location others had dismissed. She backed it with careful calculations and old land surveys she had studied late into the night. The well struck water. Fresh. Abundant. Soon, ranchers from across the county came begging for access. Maggie didn't turn them away. Instead, she offered fair contracts, shared resources, and cooperation over greed. The county that once mocked her now depended on her. At the annual county meeting, the same men who had laughed at her stood red-faced as Maggie presented financial records proving years of land manipulation and corruption, the same scheme once used to threaten Caleb's ranch. Gasps filled the hall. This ends today, Maggie said calmly. The land belongs to those who work it, not those who exploit it. The council had no choice. Charges were filed. Land was returned. Laws were rewritten. By winter, Cedar Ridge County had changed. So had Caleb. One evening, as snow dusted the fields, he found Maggie standing at the fence line, watching the sunset. They were wrong about you, he said softly. She met his gaze. They never bothered to know me. I did, Caleb replied. And I'm grateful. Their marriage, once a contract, had grown into something deeper. built on trust, shared labor, and mutual respect. No grand declarations. Just quiet devotion. When the county hosted a celebration months later, Maggie stood beside Caleb, not behind him. No whispers followed her now. Only admiration. The old maid had become the woman who reshaped a county. And those who once pushed a cowboy rancher into marriage learned a hard lesson. Never underestimate a woman just because the world failed to see her worth.